And by the way, a plan doesn't mean it's going to be rigid, isn't it? It means it's like a rudder that guides a ship. Oh, ship, not sheep, ship. There's a difference. There's a sheep, meh, there's a ship. Right? The rudder is the one that's able to guide. When you've got a plan, even when you go astray, you remember the plan is that. You know you want to achieve something in 5 years, for instance, a couple of properties or a business or a portfolio or Bitcoin or whatever, and somebody comes and offers you a cheapest amount on a Porsche. And you're like, but that's not part of my plan. But what if you don't have a plan?
It's easy to jump in.
It's easy to buy it because you don't have a plan. So it's important to understand exactly what you need to do and do it. I digressed, but I answered you.
You did, but we can continue with building. I mean, we are speaking about building at grand levels where even yourself, you have built yourself that much that you have the capacity to build at national level, right? So I want us to...
International.
International. Let's go international.
I've done seminars outside South Africa, so that's international.
No, let's go international. Okay, let's go international. Yeah. I want us to speak big now, right? The mind is great. The identity is great. The culture is intact. You're building. Now let's speak about the art of building at national level. So we have R500 million projects. You're building roads that are gonna be around for the next 15 years or something like that. How do we align ourselves to build at that level?
So here's the thing, right? I hear the aligning yourself to build big things. What are you doing with the small things? I mean, you can't be thinking about billions and millions and you're not taking care of 2 rands. Because this whole thing, let me tell you, this whole thing, it's a habit thing. Trust me. Raising money for a 6 million rand project is the same as raising money for a 60,000 project, is the same as raising money for an 8 million project or 600 million project. Then the difference is the zeros.
The principles are the same.
Principles are exactly the same. Every single project. If you hear a guy saying, I've done 600 million, I don't get phased. Because the principles are the same. The difference now is the elevation of your thinking to believe that you are capable of doing that and convince other people to invest in what you're doing. That's the difference. But in terms of the principles to do the actual project, they're all the same. You can ask Miguel, he was a banker. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. 60 million, 6 million, whatever, it's the same thing.
Can we maybe compare the two? Because usually when you're doing a smaller project, let's say project there 20,000, you think there's a gap between that and a project there 2 million, that's worth 2 million.
Yeah, but it's a thinking gap.
Can we break it down in the middle?
It's a thinking gap. It's a thinking gap because, right, at 20,000 level, before I get into it, sometimes we think we don't deserve to do certain things.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. You think you don't deserve a 20 million project.
But we created the gap.
No, maybe even you didn't create the gap. You found the gap there. But you feel you don't deserve. You're not the right person for it. But the question is, why not? And maybe you feel you don't deserve because you failed in the past. Maybe you blacklisted. Maybe you've got judgments. Or whatever that has happened to you. You've gotten divorced. I've gotten divorced. Right? Maybe you feel because of that, you're not the right person to be. But why not? Why can't you be the right person?
And it happens, like you're saying, even in the smallest of things, where you delay action because you just feel like I still need to do something a little bit better.
I need to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy, I don't know who was telling me this story. It's a friend of mine. he grew up around his mother saying, rich people are bad.
Yeah.
That guy is making a lot of money. But there was a point in time where he never had money. Like, for some reason, he'd find a bad project and invest in it. Because it was subconscious until he realized or went to someone who spoke to him and said, but you are actively sabotaging yourself because you feel you don't deserve a lot of money. Because your mother says, you grew up your mother saying rich people are bad. When you make money, now you think your mother is going to think you are bad. Subconscious. So you have capacity to operate at that level, but you mess it up. You mess it up because intrinsically you don't think you are valuable enough. And sometimes black people, it happens to us. You don't think you are valuable enough. You think other races deserve it, not you. Evile, it's seen in how you say, yo, dilo tse ke tsa makgowa. Every nice thing you say, into zabelung.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Of course.
Why is it not? What I mean, Miguel, is that someone will say these things are for white people. Because it's a nice thing, you call it's for white people. But aren't you God's child? Come on, guys. You can do better for yourself, not to compete, but to collaborate. Now, most of my friends, if you've seen in my channel, one guy in Botswana is a billionaire, friend of mine, billionaire in Pula, right? His property portfolio is about 1.2 billion Pula. I couldn't believe it as well. 1.2 billion Pula. He said to me, where do you get all these white people you interview on your podcast? And I said, what do you mean, where do I get them? In South Africa, we have a lot of white people. I don't know. White people don't just go on any podcast. And I said to him, it's about the meeting of ideas and the value that can be created for other people in our country. They are more interested in that than they are in me. It's about the bigger goal. What are you doing for society? And in your doing for society, how much of it do you believe that you are the right person to do it? And I don't care who anyone says I'm the right person.
Of course.
Right?
Evidently.
And even if you were to, it's too late to convince me that I'm not. I'm brainwashed.
Self-brainwashed.
No, it's not self. It's not self. My mother played a role in brainwashing me. Good brainwashing. My mother once held my hand. Ne? Let me hold your hand. Hey, don't hold like that. Hold properly. So I have some white spots on my fingers. They're still there. I had them when I was 12 years old. I was coming from rural Klapgat to stay with my mother in Tembisa. I had been raised by my great-grandmother. And my mother held my hand. And I won't say she lied. Maybe it's the truth. She was right. She's like, do you know what these spots on your fingers mean? Like, I don't know. They mean you're going to be wealthy and successful when you grow up. I believe that. And those spots were there because of calcium, lack of calcium.